VC notes.
You gotta see. You gotta see.
Alright, let's get it going. Big six.
Okay, I'm back with Keeping Up with the OKC Thunder. This is Keeping Up with the OKC Thunder, I guess, episode 4. There's not like a slate of things that I really want to talk about. There's just been this overwhelming conversation because, as everyone knows, last week, Kyrie Irving, after playing phenomenal basketball and saying that he is very willing to come back to Brooklyn, he wants to be in Brooklyn, he's ready to get a deal done, and then he requests a trade. It catches KD off guard, and now he's a Dallas Maverick, which I called it, by the way. Um, there's been this overwhelming discussion on, hey, maybe it's time for that reunion. Maybe it's time to bring Kevin Durant back. And I'm not sure if that's kind of where my mindset is at, because I know everybody's always like, it's easy. You trade for Kevin Durant, if you get the opportunity to trade for KD, you trade for KD. I was like, nah, it's not that easy. I feel like it's easy for teams like Philly. It's easy for teams like Miami. It's easy for teams like Toronto. It's easy for teams like Phoenix. It's easy for teams like LA. It's easy for teams like Portland. It's easy for teams like Golden State. These are the guys that it's easy to saying, hey, maybe even Boston, like, as great as Jaylen Brown is, Kevin Durant is better than Jaylen Brown. It's easy to make this like a thing. But when you are a young team that has 40 something million dollars in dead cap, thank you, Kemba Walker, by the way. Thank you, Jermichael Green and Mitch McGarry, Kyle Singler, all the folks that we bought out of contracts because they were not tradable whatsoever. This is like, we have nothing that we can really do. Like, people talking about like trading for Jakob Pertl or Mo Bamba. There's nothing unless you want to trade Darius Baisley. He has like a little $5 million or whatever because he was the 20 something pick in the 2019 draft. Trading for KD is hard, and you have to match. I think the one point that I kind of just forget about, that we kind of forget about, is this: the reason OKC wanted to go into a long form rebuild is to give themselves cap flexibility. They were under the salary floor for 2 years almost. They had to like do some little stuff to hit the salary floor because they had such low salary for so long. Because there was a minute where only 2 people were making $10 million and above on the roster last year. Just last year, and that was Shea at 10 something million, and Derek Favors, who also was making like 10 something $1 million. Everyone else, Josh Giddey was at 6. I think Trey Mann was at like 4. Kendrick Williams was at 1. Lou Dort was at 1. And now we fast forward, Cambridge Williams is making about $7 million a year. You add Chet Holmgren, he's making 9. Josh Giddey's also making 6 again. Lou Dort's at 15. The good Jalen Williams, number 12 out of Santa Clara, he's making about, I want to say about somewhere between 5, 6-ish. I'm doing all that to say, Kevin Durant is making $46 million next season. And if you're going to make these trades work, you have to match salary. And the Thunder do not have enough contracts on the books to do something like that. So here's the best case scenario. Like, the Thunder have $20 something million in cap this year. Once free agency hits, the Thunder don't get free agents. Like, normally we just kind of trade for stuff. Maybe, like, I think the last time they inked someone to a deal when they had cap space like that early on in one of their runs, they just signed Nick Collison to like a deal. It's like, hey, you've been great to us. You stayed loyal to us. Here's your payday. Like, when we were breaking it down, everybody was requesting trades and wanted out. You stayed. Here's a payday. You just ride out into the sunset, be here as long as you want until you're ready to retire, and then you're good. You can possibly sell me on giving Grant Williams, who I think is a player that could play well and space the floor next to Chet, because he to me looks like a fully realized version of Jeremiah Robinson Earl, as like this kind of undersized to be a little bit undersized to be a 5, the strength of a 4, but you could probably consider them undersized for 4 as well. But they can space the floor very well and shoot. I think if you put him next to Chet, that'll be awesome. And then if you want to give him 20 million and then work out some stuff after that to get him, that's kind of the issue. That's where the issue kind of lies. So there's not really a lot of flexibility. So the only two people making above $10 million again is Lou Dort and Shea. We have young guys with high upsides. Like, we have your Aaron Wiggins, we have your Isaiah Joes, we have your Usman Jangs, that you probably say, hey, these guys have not officially solidified themselves into the core of being a competitive basketball team. Like, the people that solidified themselves to me is Shea, obviously. It's Giddy, obviously. It's Chet, obviously. And Jalen Williams found himself right there over the course of a season. It went from, hey, let's see what this guy can do, to, oh no, we need to keep him. So it leaves you everyone else, and everyone else can probably maybe get you 20 million. If you got the roster, maybe you get 20 million. Let me see exactly here. Okay, yeah. So Chet's at 9, Josh is at 6, Usman Jang's at 4.5, Jalen Williams is at 4.3, Darius Bazley is at 4.2. He's going to be a restricted free agent this summer. Mike Muscala's at 3, Alexei Pokushevsky's at 3, Trey Mann's at 3, JRE's at 2, Kendrick Williams is actually at 2. His contract doesn't kick in until next year. And the other Jalen Williams at 2, Isaiah Joe's at 1.8, Aaron Wiggins at 1.5. To do all of that, like, our active roster money is $94 million. We'd have to get rid of almost half the roster. Actually, majority of the roster, just to do that trade, to match salaries to get Kevin Durant, because our active roster salary is not that high at all. And the question is, like, would we even want to do that? Like, as a fan, as somebody I let my animosity towards him go. It's whatever. I was just like, he's about to be 35. He's still kind of doing his own thing. OKC's competing, but they're not a place they're ready to compete at a high level yet. And that's when you bring somebody in like Kevin Durant for. I don't see why you strip that down to essentially shorten your window. The whole point of the long rebuild and getting a guy like Shea, who is 24, and surrounding him with pieces, with guys who were between the ages of 19 and 22, is that when Shea really hits his prime at 27, where your prime like really starts and you're at your peak form, you have these guys that start to enter the phase of where Shea was last year, where Shea is this year. Actually, where Shea was these past 3 years, like this guy who you couldn't quite hit what his ceiling is. You know, he can do something. You don't know, he has a ceiling of being a top 20 player in the league, top 10 in scoring possibly. You just did not know what his ceiling was. And it's always just known before he solidified himself as a superstar, oh, he would be great on any contending team. Any contending team, like, hey, if you can try to get him in OKC, which you couldn't get him. If you want to try to get him, try to see if you can sell the house and make an offer for him, because he could be that valuable to that team. You're going to put a bunch of these type of guys around Shea who are also young. Like, you're getting these young dudes who could do he could probably be like a Bones Highland type or a Tyrese Maxey type, or 2020, 2021 Shai Gilgeous-Alexander type, where they're just young in their early 20s, but their impact on the floor is amazing. And once they get those reps and get that experience, this is who they turn into. Throwing that away for Kevin Durant doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? That's where I say in this case it's not worth it. Go ahead and just I mean, if he wanted to come back after his contract's over, awesome. But that's just not a reality right now. And the sad fact about it is when you see nobody was willing to just sell the farm for KD, because obviously the Rudy Gobert trade, quote unquote, broke the trade market, but it's still Kevin Durant. The reality kind of came in. It's like, hey, this guy's in his mid-30s. He's still an amazing basketball player when he plays. He's always like an MVP level caliber player. But he's been hurt every single season since he tore his Achilles. He's been hurt. He's had hurt seasons when he was in OKC. Like this is the reality of it. And that will not only shorten the window hasn't even opened for OKC yet. I feel like the window has opened for Memphis. It's open for the Pelicans. It's opened really for the Cleveland Cavaliers now. The window is just not opening for those teams to go out and do something. You pull a trigger like that, and your window closes before it even really opens. And that's the last thing you'd ever want is because you do not want that window to close early. Literally, ask the Chicago Bulls about opening that window, about trying to create a window when it wasn't even open yet. You find yourself having one really good year, and then it's done. It worked out a little bit better for Phoenix because Phoenix went to the finals, but now you look at them now, their window's closed. You ask your average person, they'll tell you their window's closing or their window's closed. And they just went to the finals 2 years ago. And their window's closed or closing. That's something to think about when you start to wonder about things like, hey, should we trade for this guy? Should we trade for that guy? Kevin Durant coming back to OKC would make an amazing story. When he's 38 and he chooses to come back as a free agent. I don't think bringing it back now would make any sense. And we had terrible flexibility because in the first run of the Thunder, because they just got too good too fast, and Sam Presti wasn't able to really prepare for it. Now he's preparing for it. Stripping that away and bringing him in is he literally antithesis of it. Like unless you're willing to take a buyout so he can do that, I don't see any way where that just happens. Because they're realistically, they're going to want to trade. They'd rather take a trade from him than buy him out, honestly. So that's what you think about. But this is Keeping Up with the OKC Thunder. I'm your host, and you can find me in my various socials and everything. That'll be in the link below. You guys take care.